We all want our horses to ride around super collected, super round, with their hind end up underneath them, really using their body. But before we can get to that wonderful place where they move around the arena super collected, first step is lateral flexion, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Katrina from Strong in the Saddle, and this is Diesel. Diesel is a 4-year-old reining bred quarter horse gelding who is going to be my demo horse today. So I got Diesel a little over a year ago at this point, and at that time he wasn't super great with lateral flexion, but since then I've worked with him a lot to get him very soft and working really good laterally as a way of improving his vertical flexion, which then leads to collection. So Diesel's not super brand new with lateral flexion, but he's also not brand new. So some of the things that you might find, the issues that pop up or the resistance that your horse gives you, he might not necessarily show in this demonstration, but I will try my best to explain any of the issues that might pop up when trying to teach your horse lateral flexion. The only piece of tack that you're going to need for starting out with lateral flexion is a halter in lead. So Diesel's just wearing a very simple rope halter, and I've got just a rope lead on him. My lead rope does have a snap on it, but if yours is just tied, that's fine too. So it doesn't matter which side you start teaching your horse lateral flexion. All that I would say is focus on one side to start and then move to the other side. You don't want to constantly be going back and forth. I learned from Clinton Anderson that you kind of have two horses. This is lefty and the other side is righty, and you have to kind of approach it in that you're going to have to teach your horse twice the same thing. So I would have to teach Diesel to laterally flex on the left and then have to completely teach him the exact same thing on the right. You also have to keep in mind that horses, just like people, have a good side and a bad side, or not even necessarily a bad side, but just one side that they're more comfortable with. Like for myself, I'm more comfortable with my right hand, and it's no different for horses. So for Diesel, let me think. This is his good side. So flexing to the left is his good side. So it probably won't take him quite as long to catch on that good side, which means I'll probably need to spend more time on the right side, which is what I end up doing in practice. He gets a lot more work on that right side because he's not quite as comfortable with it. So to teach your horse to do this, you want to stand by their side, slightly behind their shoulder, and what you're going to do is just pick up and ask for their nose. So as you can see, Diesel is very good at this. When I pick up, he moves. And he does it all the way. He touched his, where the cinch would go. So again, just to show you how to do it. Over. And as soon as he gives, I release to let him know that's exactly what I wanted. And release. Ask again. And see, he's even anticipating it at this point, so I'm hardly having to even. That's basic. That is what you want. That is perfect for with a halter. So when you're first teaching your horse this, I would say do not expect them to reach all the way around to their girth, especially if they're not used to this. They might be a little bit stiff. So we want to reward the slightest amount of try. So if we pick up and maybe they just go that far and we release. Pick up that far and release. Pick up a little bit and release. With a lot of horses, one thing that you will come across is resistance, and that can come out in a few different ways. One would be that when you ask them for their head, they just kind of maybe get this far and then they just lean against it without actually softening to the rope. We want there to be slack in the rope. We want them to soften to it. We don't want to just reef their head around and like make them touch their girth. We want them to put slack in the rope. And when you're first teaching this, you might find that they're just leaning against that rope and they're not moving. So what I would do if your horse is leaning is I would just hold it. And obviously Diesel's super soft, but just hold it until they do actually soften, because we don't want to reward them for being stiff. We want to hold it until they soften. And again, we just want the slightest amount of try. If there's just a slight bit of slack for just a moment, we want to reward that try. He's trying to figure out what you're wanting him to do, which we want to reward that. Another thing that a lot of horses will do is move around, trying to get away from the resistance. So you would pick up on the rope and then the horse starts kind of doing a circle around you. We don't want to reward them when they're moving. This is supposed to be a stationary activity. So what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna have to dance with them a bit. Let's say that Diesel is moving around, he's doing a circle. I need to keep asking for his head and keep at that until he does two things. He stops moving his feet and he gives us some slack. Only when those two conditions exist do we release the rope and let them rest. And that was another thing I forgot to mention. In between flexing, when you're first teaching them, let them have 10 seconds before you ask them again. Otherwise, they're just thinking that you're constantly picking at them. So you would ask, he softened, release, let him think about it for a second. So you might end up doing a lot of dancing. Your hand might end up getting sore if your horse is super resistant and doesn't want to give. But you need to just be patient and just do short sessions of this and do it frequently. The one thing about lateral flexion is you want to do it very, very, very frequently. This is something I do with my horses, maybe not necessarily with a halter anymore, but once I graduated to doing it with a bridle, I do it every single day when I am riding. They get flexed because lateral flexion is very, very important. Once you get as soft as Mr. Diesel is here, the more advanced thing would be to ask for the softness and then just ask him to kind of hold it there a bit longer. So he's giving me a bit of resistance. Okay, we just want you to hold it. Hold it. I know. So Diesel gets a little bit impatient. He's like, exactly, he does that. So that's resistance. I don't want to reward that. So I'm going to make him just chill out. Good. No. So we went off camera there and he was giving me some resistance, but I kept at it. Until he settled down a bit. I don't want to reward him doing this. I want just nice, polite. There, good boy. Just nice, soft, smooth. At the stage he's at, he's been doing this for over a year now. He knows better. He knows that he needs to just soften nice and slowly bring his head back. At this stage, I also don't want him snapping his head right straight again. I want him to be slow, smooth, steady. I don't want any attitude. There. Takes lots and lots of practice. But as I said, this is the start of getting your horse nice and collected in a bridle, rounded back, really collected, round, and using themselves. This is the start, and I know it's kind of like, are you sure? Yes, trust me, if you put the work in to do this starting step and then slowly graduate to the steps that I'll show in future videos, this is how you get your horse round and collected. If you guys have any questions on lateral flexion, be sure to put them in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram. I'm everywhere at Strong in the Saddle. And until next time, remember, it's always a good day to ride.